The rest of the evening passes without further event, though we don't stay long after. Alright, let's see who saves you from your imminent car crash. Some plans were made for after the movie the night before, but they're mostly Isabella's suggestions. And with her absent, there isn't much point to it, is there? We'll just have to find some other time, preferably when everyone's in a better frame of mind. Certainly not when the rest of us are this exhausted, have things nagging at the back of our minds, or this emotionally drained. Although we still have a long night ahead of us, and chances of spending together what little free time we have right now, what we have, might grow slim in the next days. Where did right now come from? Sometimes there are things you simply can't force. A sentiment we all likely share at the moment, if the silence before we part ways tells anything. Even Zachary seems reluctant to break it.
Well, it was fun, despite, you know.
Man, they all just need Isabella.
But really, thanks for staying, you two.
Don't mention it. It's the least we can do.
Nah, I owe you both. Especially you. You sure you don't want payment for all that history checking you did?
Quite sure. Oh, you know what? On second thought, just save it for when you win an award.
Cute.
Treat us someplace nice or something.
I doubt it'll go that far.
Aw, that blush.
Oh, please. Think positive for once.
I hear you, ma'am. I hear you.
Then put some back into it.
It's really too early to say, but here's hoping, I guess. We'll see. Anyhow, I'm off. Got some new photography gig lined up in the next few days.
Ashton, are you present for this conversation?
But just call me anytime you guys want to hang out. Sketch should be easy to free up for some R&R now. How about you, Ash? You coming with?
We both glance his way, though mine probably comes off sharper, more scrutinizing. He hasn't said a word since we left the theater, his eyes completely glued to his phone as soon as the movie ended. Typical. Once he notices, though, a wry smile makes its way into his face. His apology. And like every other time, it'll suffice.
Oh, yeah. I need to double check something with the guys at the precinct.
Same way then. You gonna be fine on your own, Rebecca?
No.
My car's parked just a block away from here. It should be an easy walk. But both of you should get going if you're in a hurry.
Right. Drop us a message when you get home. And that thing with Isabella, too, when you get a chance to see her. See ya.
Yeah, I will. Be careful, you two. Bye.
They leave without a backward glance. But despite my own exhaustion and the strong desire to go home, I remain on the same spot for some scant seconds still. Watching them, trying to figure out where to go from here, as if the answer can be found in their retreating backs. If Zachary hasn't mentioned Isabella again, I probably would have forgotten about his request. Literally the worst. I would have simply left the anger to subside until we can pretend like nothing happened. When I finally crossed the street, long after they disappeared behind the evening crowd, I only have one choice in mind. She's not answering, though. I let it ring for another second more before making a swipe at the screen and dropping the call. I don't bother stopping myself from releasing a loud sigh this time. Long and weary, heavy with every frustration in my body today. By this hour, she's probably already back home, and it's very likely she has holed herself up in her apartment. I won't be surprised. She's done that before, very much like a kid throwing a tantrum. Who doesn't, when they're upset, want to be in a safe, quiet place away from everybody and just shut out the world? Becca? Good grief. Oh... Please, give me something. Give me a nugget to have some sympathy for you. Just give me something.
I just don't understand her sometimes.
I don't understand why she can't get a hint. Why she doesn't think she's being ridiculous. Why, of all people, we're the ones she has to play some dumb Halloween prank on. Granted, Ashton's the one who started it, but did she think it'd be a good idea to go with that story?
It makes you wonder why we're friends, but here we are.
It does make one wonder. It's very true. Now, I'm left to fix things after her. If I'm going to be honest, not having her around for a few hours today is a welcome break. Peace and quiet is one thing you'll rarely get with her around. Sheesh. Yet, the silence and lack of her presence is nowhere near comforting. It merely lends the air this strange clarity, every little sound, every single movement more palpable. With it comes the unease. It hasn't really left me this afternoon, and against everything I've wished for today, I find myself yearning for an interruption and dial her number again. As frustrating as today is, I can also use a friendly voice. It rings for a good minute or two. Until just when I'm beginning to think she's not going to answer this either, the line picks up. Yeah, I was like, okay, so the first time we had a call from Rose, so now we're calling Bella.
Belle, hey! Just checking on you. I'm on my way home. Is there something you want me to pick up for you? You probably skipped dinner, didn't you? Don't worry, that diner a block away is still open. Want me to buy you anything from there? Isabella?
Nope. That's when I chuck my phone out the window. A jolt of surprise hits me, and in the resulting panic, I accidentally dislodge my mobile from its seat on the dashboard. Soon, I'm scrambling blindly for it with my other hand while keeping a steady eye on the road ahead. Although muffled heavily by the surface, a voice still crackles from the loudspeakers before I can put it back. My temper rises.
What's this? Some sort of practical joke? Isabella, if you think this is funny...
Okay. That sounded like Rose, but it's not. My hand stops dead for a moment. I spare the device a brief glance, waiting. Seconds pass. Nothing happens, though. Frankly, I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but the lines of my mouth forms into a frown regardless.
Isabella? Is everything all right over there?
I have to make a conscious effort not to panic right then and there, although my tight hole in the steering wheel tells a different story altogether.
Isabella? Belle? Hey, Belle. What happened?
Only a burst of static answers me, and... maybe this lapse is entirely because of exhaustion, the heat, and the weather. It has been a long day, and I haven't fully recovered from last week's bout of flu, contrary to what I've been telling people. Though perhaps had I paid closer attention to it, had I not been so occupied with other thoughts, I probably would have noticed earlier that it never came from my phone, but from somewhere right behind me. Please. Time slows to a crawl. Looking up is a mistake. The first thing I see is its face. A ghastly shade, every inch battered, bruised, and bloodied. Even in the darkness and the world passing by in a blur of lights outside, I can still make out the wounds. Blood still oozes from it, little trails of crimson running down its face, glistening under what little light there is. But it is the gleam in its eyes that catches mine. The quiet plea, the anguish, and the desperation in them, more than its hideous features and the awful stench of gore now soaking the air. And try as I might, I can't bring myself to look away, even as its lips contort into a horrific smile. Even as a sharp, harsh noise pierces the air and the silence around us.
Huh?
Against everything I've been taught, and I've constantly reminded myself, I close my eyes. It's a brief moment. A short, vivid second of muscle memory and instinct completely taking over. And if I didn't allow it, if my hands didn't move, or my feet didn't hit the brakes in that exact second, I might have... No. I shake the notion away before I lose myself in it. Right now it's an ugly line of thought I refuse to venture into. Not when breathing is a struggle and every ounce of strength has been totally drained from my body. Most definitely not while the sound of screeching tires still rings in my ears. I'm alive. I'm safe. That's all that matters. But it is not my face that I look for when I finally open my eyes. All gone. I expected stains, little telling marks and creases on the covers to show me where it sat not a second ago. But whoever, whatever it is, it left not a single trace. And though courage is a hard thing to gather at this point, I take what little of it remains in me and turn towards the back seat. Even then, there's none. Bella! Was there really something in there? With how empty it is, I'm beginning to doubt it. This stupid flu again.
I need a long rest after this.
My hands fall uselessly to my sides, numb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling from the unexpected rush of adrenaline. Against my ears, my heart still pounds in erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me. And little by little, second after second, as I sit here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds and a voice. No longer as indistinct as it was earlier.
Becca, how do you press this button? You've already started recording.
You activated a video? Oh, her voicemail. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Let's see.
Oh my gosh.
Hello there. Isabella Santos here. Sorry you missed me. Just leave a message after the beep, and I'll get back to you soon. Thank you.
So friendly.
Shut up, Ashton.
Ash, what are you doing?
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I can hear you thinking about it. Zach, Ash's...
All right, kids, settle down before you break anything.
Or I'll turn this boat around, I swear. The recording is old, made early in our friendship, roughly 3 or 4 years ago, probably? I can't remember now. I'm more surprised Isabella kept this when she could have easily replaced it. But then again, little things like this, no matter how imperfect they may seem, are what made her the happiest. A fond smile slips into my lips before I know it. I allow it to, despite the headache already forming at the sides of my head and every negative thought still swimming inside. When at last I speak, my tone is as light as it can be.
Hey, Belle. I know you're in there. I'm on my way home.
Man, you sound so calm for someone who was nearly in a car crash and almost killed by a ghost.
If you need anything, send me a message ASAP. I'll see if I can still get it for you. You've got 15 minutes. And, if there's something you want to talk about, let me know, okay? Bye.
The phone call ends with a faint click and a pensive mood washes over me. With it comes a small truth. Her stay has always been meant to be something fleeting. Earn some good money, go home. It's what she told herself during her first year here. Now? Half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And with these ill feelings I carry with me, I'm more inclined to think there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way. They're merely hunches, but it's something I'd rather not bring up, because I'm almost too afraid of what her answer will be. Alright, let's read about our near-death experience. Let's see. Aw, nice. Rebecca and Ashton were seen chatting while waiting for the movie's start, and the former reminisced the times when they were still children. On her way home, Rebecca glimpsed something suspicious sitting at the back seat of her car. Very sus. The silence is far from a pleasant company for the rest of my drive. But it's a respite all the same, from an overactive imagination playing tricks on a flu-addled mind and from smiles never meant for my eyes. All of them I abandon, if only for a brief moment. Okay. Story update. Are we back on normalcy? Yes, we are. Right, so I asked him to check on Bella. I think I'm supposed to say sorry for the trouble, I think. Yes, good. And I got a new thing, which we read before. Okay, good. Skip. We'll leave that alone for right now. Another journal entry to check. Alright, let's start this Luke and Becca train a-rollin'. So he dislikes both of these options. I think hitting him in the nuts makes him like us less, ironically, or not ironically. So I'll shout for help, I guess.
Let me go, you uncouth lout!
Nice. Okay, so we're in the negative for right now, but we'll fix that in a second. I'll apologize to Luke. There we go. Everything's fixed. We're doing fine now.
I listened that one time, didn't I?
Ah, right, because you went and had the sleepover. Nice. Boof. Let me just... You can tell me, because I listened that one time. Alright.
Is it about your family?
I think we're back. Is this why you didn't go home last night? Look at that. Besties. Our favorite person. Probably. Right? Okay, we're getting out to the point where something's gonna change. We're gonna go on a date. Well, quote-unquote, date. With Luke and Kylie. You're good at handling her. Nice. Good, good. We're getting this train a-rolling. Ooh, don't want that train a-rolling, though. Poor Kylie. Okay. Tough choice. Super duper tough, but not really, because we have done the other thing plenty of times. Nice. He's happy we're coming. In the end, it's my own fondness for Kylie that wins out. I'm sure. Chances are I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse. A sudden call from a friend, or things to work on. It doesn't seem so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to be rid of. I'm leaning more on the latter happening. Hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me into a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand toward the building's exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Tio doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
That was better than dead air.
I'm the one who should keep my distance.
Fair.
May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Fair.
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick.
Luke, please, I can't.
You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
Oh no, I'm already on the train. To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I pause to stare at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers, like the usual. And for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow, I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. And amidst this newfound friendship? Dare I call it that? Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Dinner date. Grand. It is a date. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one, and waiting for food to be served is as awkward as I've imagined it would be. This is a good spot, Kylie. Not the bad sort, though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks or we're not exchanging acerbic quips. It's clear he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for the 6-year-old by being chattier, even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once I catch his frequent cheesed-off expression easing whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep.
Oh, good.
She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though.
She saw something she didn't like. Was it Luke and Becca flirting?
She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Not creepy at all.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. Daw. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to the nearby bookshelves after having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about, aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer on local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with it that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though. It's too early for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. Better keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. This whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile, turning it from hand to hand while we wait for our respective meals. But it'll be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashton's probably at Salemwell by this time, working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him?
Cut that out. It's distracting.
My hand stills, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he has whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and tasteless the decorations they have here. Previous to that, he has griped about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequents on the upper-class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, your majesty. Figures he'll lose patience soon, having already grumbled about almost everything his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
What? Why are you so green?
Bob, do I even want to ask?
Yeah, I'm like, what is that? I don't want to hear it. If it's coming out of his mouth, it can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face?
What?
True horror.
What are you talking about?
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap. Preferably by your own mum.
Oh, that's a sore subject.
A shame she isn't here, hmm?
Man, he managed to sound so indifferent about that. Applause. For whatever reason, that puts an end to that talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found a particularly interesting picture book and is now poring over it while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would it kill him to at least send a message? Check if I were home? Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts all but 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got the immature act down pat, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood? Well?
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, all right? 1, I'm the one paying here.
Fair.
2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry.
You sound hangry more than hungry.
What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, I didn't realize this was one.
Oh, got her.
You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know.
Damn.
Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer. Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out.
Ooh.
It'll be our dirty little secret.
He's not my boyfriend!
The words come out with more force than I've intended. By the time I realize my slip-up, his lips are already spread in a sneer. Heat slowly crawls up in my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know, but in the next second he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. In that moment, I know I flipped a switch in him somewhere, and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile? Waiting for another message for him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting to go after him?
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush.
You're the worst.
The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush!
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you.
You got her figured out to a T.
In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity, because he might misinterpret it.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Becca, there's no need to shout. You're making a scene. Just calm down.
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with. Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers. Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you, or putting everything you have aside to please them, to have your whole world revolve around one person.
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't lump everyone together just because it didn't work out for you.
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you? Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Ouch.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for her dashing Prince Charming? What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs?
I mean, he is right. He is calling out what her idolization of love is. And that's why I don't think her and Ash work out in the end, because Ash is not any of those things. It's like, that is what she wants from a relationship. Or at least that's what she wants from a relationship with Ash. But I am curious how things would have looked for them a couple years down the road. Would she have realized that that's not what she was getting? I don't know. It's interesting.
How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said. And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head.
I mean, okay, but that's not true for everybody. Every relationship is different. So, like, I personally, since I've been married, me and my husband have worked together, so we very rarely are actually not together doing stuff. Only lately have circumstances been where working so much that sometimes he has to go do errands while I work or vice versa. But in general, we do basically everything together, and we both prefer it that way. We don't mind spending all our time together. We enjoy it. It's very comfortable. But for other people, it's like, oh my goodness, can you get a room? Don't you have somewhere to be? So it very much depends on your personality and the relationship you've got. So you can't just blanket statement, it's not romantic at all. It's 100% romantic, because it's different for everybody. You two nutters.
Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Longer than you would like to know. Averting my eyes from him is all I managed to do. What does his mere 7 years have compared to the 17 I've had with Ash? You haven't had 17 with Ash. You've been friends with him for 17 years. You've had a crush on him, but you have not been in a relationship with Ash for 17 years. Just in your own mind. It's laughable he thinks those two things are even comparable. Ash and I may have never moved past the boundaries of friendship, like what I'm hoping for years, but what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. I've always been by his side, endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger, says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. And yet...
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10?
Worse?
20?
Okay, not that bad. His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, gradually picking apart everything I've ever been sure of. Despite myself, the doubts resurface and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees through me, and as expected, he ridicules it. Laughs. Restrained, low and rumbling. A sharp sound striking the air around us amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. Man, this place is atrocious, though. They've had this long, uncomfortable conversation, and the food still hasn't arrived. Oh, I would never eat here. Good grief. His shoulders shake, and when his mirth becomes too much even for him, he reaches up a hand and passes it over his face as if to hold his glee close to him.
Lordy bullocks, this is just brilliant.
Well, I'm glad you're having such a good time now.
Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter. But when it subsides, what he has for me are more words. Scathing, each of them. The urge to run from here has never been this strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act, if that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe?
I mean, basically.
Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time, never looking at another man.
Oof.
He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest.
Unfortunately, he's completely clueless.
Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one who looks away, focusing his eyes back to where Kylie is, and for a moment I believe I've won. Until he draws in a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us.
You're right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges my heart. That was actually, like, some decent advice. Maybe it's in the manner he delivers it. The lack of conceit in his posture, or an underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time it's him who holds gaze against mine. Another unspoken challenge, and I realize that if this happened minutes before, I'd already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. There's none. But the anger is there, ringing at my insides, prodding at the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have the long years we've been together. We have the memories. Whenever he needs me, until other people come in between us, I've always been the one there. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? I've always been sure of it, and that one day, he'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the words. So what did he say? Like, don't... Did he ask a question? Don't mistake love for obsession. I mean, what right do you have? It's just going to be an argument, plain and simple. Maybe I don't need to answer that is a bit calmer direction for the conversation to go. She's not outright denying it. Not deluding herself, maybe. I'm gonna go with that. Oh, he liked that. And the music shifted. However, those are for me to ponder on. This arse doesn't need to hear them, and neither is he entitled to them just because he dished out some profound-sounding life wisdom no one asked for. So I look away, hoping my own silence would be enough of an answer for him. And it is, for a moment. Up until warm, furious tears prickle behind my eyes. Stinging, begging for release, along with every other frustration this dumb talk has built up in me. Wow, he actually got you to cry? That's amazing. All because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact that he has to be the one to see me in this sorry state. I'm already expecting another barb from him when his expression shifts. Except he panics. Yeah, I don't think you realize quite how deeply you felt about this whole situation. In the span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concerned to utter panic. It would probably have been funny if I weren't so irked by the sight of this Glykit bastard. That's probably not how you say that.
Hey, are you crying? Are you going to cry?
Yes, because it's been half an hour and our food still hasn't come.
Stop that right now, woman.
The blush. Stop. Don't do that.
Will you shut up?
He clams up almost before I could finish. Whether this is due to the sudden force in my voice or how I look, I pretend not to think of it. He seems like a deer caught in the headlights with the way he's making himself smaller in his seat. But I'm still pissed. I'm tired, and if I can't punch him, I can at least scream at him.
You're an annoying bag of dick, you know that?
Just one bag?
If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth shut myself!
It does do the trick. Not to the effect I've hoped, but The moment I've snapped at him, the stinging at the back of my eyes melts away and a strange calm overcomes me. A fragile thing when found in the middle of a busy coffee shop. Nevertheless, it's appreciated considering it doesn't last. Immediately broken by the very person that put me in this state with a few awkward pats to my shoulder. He's trying. Done twice. Thrice. And another. Until my patience runs out again and I'm pulling out the book from my bag, raising it threateningly over his head. It'll surely dent his skull if it slams down at this height. Part of me wants to see that, but I restrain myself. He has the good sense to recoil, though. Shortly, he shrinks back to his seat and waves his hand in front of him in a gesture of surrender.
Watch that book, woman! I already warned you about your little threats. You don't want to see my brand of angry!
Oh yes, you look very angry.
Then keep your hands to yourself!
All right, that's it. People these days, I swear you treat them nicely and this is where it gets me.
Uh-huh.
You're the last person I'd ever want to comfort me. Even if we're the only two remaining people on Earth. Don't flatter yourself.
Okay, have it your way, Daisy.
And stop calling me Daisy! I have a name, you know!
He mutters something inaudible under his breath, although afterwards he doesn't say anything further. For the next minute, he simply contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins, folding them into clean shapes without any clear intent, before crumpling them in his hand when he loses interest and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. Oh, good grief, finally. A waiter serves our meal soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our table. But before I can take a single bite, he mutters something. The words spoken in the same tone he's used since morning, all under his breath, whenever the honest part of himself would show. Despite my rather confusing opinion of the man, I stop short of shoving food in my mouth to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears, above the din of the coffee house.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you.
Holy crap, he actually used her name.
Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
He spares a piece of his food, pops it into his mouth, and that's it. One whole day with this man, and I still can't figure what his deal is. But for what it's worth as well, I don't think he's an entirely bad guy. The rest of our meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie is sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school. Except for when Luke gestures at a nearby flower shop and enters it without waiting for Kylie and I. Okay. He emerges minutes after, carrying a bouquet of daffodils, with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous ones, he tucks this one away almost as soon as he looks up at us, a moment he's not willing to share. At my confusion, he merely answers with a shrug and continues walking.
For someone important.
For mother. I accept it for what it is, if only because he doesn't owe me an explanation. It does leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous ones. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head our own ways. Up until I arrive home, I still can't understand him. Here, however, a whole different set of questions await me. And much like everything today, it comes with the littlest of things. A lone note greets me upon reaching my unit's door. Its edges flutter lightly against the faint, warm breeze passing through the small complex. My hand stops short of twisting the knob as I stare at it, though I don't make any moves to take it. Ashton's neat script lines its surface. Dropped by earlier, you weren't around. Any ideas where Scaredy Cat is? I couldn't contact her. Inspector Abigail has a few questions. LPD stuff, something about her dead co-workers. Anyway, let me know how the two of you have been doing. I'll see you later, Ash, and an amazing emoji with a sparkly thing at the top. Amazing. The message he left, short and straight to the point, but not without the underlying hint of friendship. He's looking for Isabella, apparently. Something about LPD's investigation of her co-worker's death, but ends its formal tone by checking on me. Us. She's starting to realize... Oh, that's so cute! Look at her happy little face! Luke and Kylie invited Rebecca for dinner as she was about to leave. Despite receiving a text message from Ashton, Rebecca agreed, and the three spent the evening at a nearby coffee house. Upon returning to her flat, she found a note that Ashton left her. Any other day, the former part of his message will likely prod at the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will probably send my heart aflutter. Little things from him that I want to mean something more. Yet, this time only guilt fills me, and my eyes briefly shift towards Isabella's empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do so.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you. Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
Have I always been like this?
Well, last 17 years. This selfish? In truth, I've intended to call Ash after that dinner, if I didn't catch him here. Invite him to that party like I've planned. There's time, and he's still probably awake at around this hour. But my hands won't move. And perhaps it is for the better. Until I've had the time to think this through, it'll be best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging tightly to. Find a different perspective and see things for what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumple it under my hand. The knob twists open with much ease when I enter this time. Maybe after some introspection, it'll be easier. For tomorrow, I have that woman in the mansion to worry about. Wow, she's actually taking some time. Very interesting. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. And as expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by the voices of two squabbling adults echoing from a floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame. Okay, so I guess this is Ash and Bella. Okay, so you guys are fighting. Well, I can afford to take a hit with Bella. I can't really with Ash. I want you to be friends, even if you can't smooch him, because you're smooching this guy. Although I feel like it would make more sense for... You know what? I'm going to save here. I'm not sure about this. Like, I think it would make sense with the conversation she had yesterday to side with Belle. But because I want to have everybody be friends, I don't know if it's even possible, but I'm trying. Oh, and we're still max with her? Maybe because we were over the bar. This is acceptable to me. Alright, let's look at what we've got. Okay, so it was that. Perfect. And I didn't go with Ash this time, so this party will be a little bit different. Maybe Becca will actually dance with some people. Of all the cabbies in Luxburn, I had to chance upon the superstitious one. Oh, right, because Ash didn't drive you. Still not as bad as finding out your car starter refuses to crank on when it was still working this morning, yes. But it's equally as frustrating when you're forced to walk the rest of the way. All because the driver got spooked. Isabella and him will get along so well. I do get his reasons. After all, I've had my fair taste of the bizarre lately. All of which might have been brought upon by that letter Isabella found here. But you'd think he'd at least be charitable enough to take me a little closer to the house itself, not at a distance 15 minutes away from it by foot. Good thing I'm not wearing anything too formal or constricting. Otherwise, that short walk would have likely put me in a bad mood long before I have to suffer in a room full of strangers tonight. Although this soon proves to be a problem the second the driveway comes into view and I near the entrance. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars, worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined, line the mansion's front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself among present company. This, despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests, or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxburn.
Welcome, welcome everyone.
And Mum said we would have been good friends? I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guests she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my taste. They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her enraptured audience again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. I shouldn't have let Luke's words affect me like that. I should have just gone ahead and asked Ashton like I planned. If he were here, then I won't have to...
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
Okay, so he still managed to sneak his way in here. The rest of that thought dies in my mind at once. A moment of astonishment overcomes me before confusion sets in seconds later. It takes another for my body to catch up. Once it does, when I finally turn to see it for myself, it's his familiar mop of hair that catches my eyes first. And there he is, almost an arm's reach if it isn't for the guest standing between us. Ashton Frey, standing in the Ermengarde mansion's driveway with an air too lackadaisical for someone who absolutely abhors parties of any form. Or has any business here, as far as I know? The picture it forms is too brazen for me that my mouth speaks out ahead of any coherent thought.
Ashton?
Whoa! He swivels on his heel with an equally puzzled face. An odd expression flashes momentarily across it once he sees me, though he blinks it away before I can figure out what it is exactly.
Becca, what are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point. What are you doing here? You hate parties.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
Who? That in itself is weird coming from him. It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused at some point in the crowd. His gaze darting between people walking past us, until a small frown forms in his face.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Oh, well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
Chief?
She tried.
Ashton, what's...
Unexpectedly, he places a hand on my shoulder, stopping me mid-sentence. He still has the distracted look on him, except this time his eyes are sharper, as if he has found what or who he's been searching for among the throng of partygoers earlier.
Sorry, Becca. I need to... There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take
No?
a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this.
Ah.
Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask already, he has turned his back from me and is walking away, without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I tried to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted the sudden departure and his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what exact?
Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long at all. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party, and to send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends and I get to look up, Ashton's already nowhere in sight. With a sigh and, admittedly, a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and head inside. Even with familiar company, however coincidental this meeting is, this is somehow shaping up to be a terrible evening. Yep. Alright, let's see if we're... There might be some stuff that's different here. Oh, okay. So she still isn't dancing. Pride in my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him curbs that as much as I hate to admit it. Because doing so also means outright acknowledging the douche's claims. That he has to be the one to tell me that still sends my blood boiling. I would have preferred someone more agreeable, less of an arse. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention or a single glance at me the whole evening. Zachary's the best. Alright. So he's scarfing down food. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he doesn't want to be with any of his friends. Is it because his boss is here? What's the big deal about that? It has never bothered him before.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You should have been doing that already, girl. I swear. Honestly. Let's see. A hint of pity. I haven't even figured out how I should feel about the things Luke told me. Now I'm getting dragged into a similar discussion.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
I'll just not talk about it. I'm just gonna move on, please. Selfish. I've been too selfish. How laughable that Luke's words still strike true up until now.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe. Maybe I would've. Maybe I would've agreed, but not now.
He didn't have to hide it from me.
Didn't have to hide what? He ignored me the whole evening. He has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his own friends for that? It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end the disastrous night as early as possible. And meet up with Luke.
You know, brooding over here isn't going to fix this mess.
Alright, look at that. Besties. Well...
If you're done here, let's go. I'll get you back to the city.
Excuse you, where did you come from? You sound so done with the whole night. There was a shadow. My mistake, the second his voice cuts through the crisp night air, is that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him, if he's shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Okay, are we back? We are back? Care to explain your reasons?
Care to explain your reasons?
Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna meet with the professor. It's almost Ghost Lady time. It's very much Ghost Lady time. Alright, with this lovely music. No, I don't want to do that. Let's just clear up some things. Mwah. And there we go. Head for the door. Okay, gotta get ready for that QTE. Okay. Nice. Got her with that book. Get out of here, ghost. I ain't afraid of no ghost. Yeah, we're alive. Is that it? Alright. Wow. So Becca's chapter took up an entire episode because of that long data with Luke. Nice. Very, very nice. Alright. Well, next time I guess we'll catch up with Ashton and see what's going on there.